My beloved child, pause everything you are doing and listen with your full heart. What you are about to hear is not gentle, and it is not delayed. February 6 has been marked in heaven, and Archangel Michael is not whispering today. He is speaking with holy anger. This message is not symbolic. It is not general. It is directed, precise, and urgent. You did something that heaven noticed, something you believed was hidden, something you assumed would pass without consequence. But it did not pass. It echoed upward. And now, the response has come. Hear this clearly. If you walk away from this message, it will not be taken lightly. This is not fear. This is warning wrapped in mercy. Many heard the earlier nudges and ignored them. Many felt the inner check and chose comfort instead. But today, the tone has changed. Archangel Michael stands as a defender of divine order, and when order is violated, correction follows. Not to destroy you, but to stop you from destroying your own future. You may already feel it. That tightness in your chest. That sudden awareness that this message is speaking directly to you. This is not coincidence. Heaven does not interrupt without reason. There was a decision you made recently, or one you are about to make, that goes against what you were clearly shown before. You knew better. You were warned quietly. But you told yourself, just this once. And heaven recorded it. Archangel Michael says, this mistake is not small. It affects more than you realize. It affects your protection, your timing, and your authority. When you stepped out of alignment, you did not just delay a blessing. You exposed a door that was meant to stay shut. And now heaven is stepping in before that exposure becomes permanent damage. Do not misunderstand this message. This is not condemnation. This is intervention. There is still a window open, but it is narrowing fast. February 6th is not just a date. It is a checkpoint, a line drawn in the spirit. What you choose after hearing this will determine whether restoration or restriction follows. Archangel Michael is showing me that some of you ignored a clear instruction because it didn't make sense emotionally. You let logic, fear, or desire override obedience. Others compromised because you were tired of waiting. You told yourself God would understand. And He does understand, but understanding does not cancel consequence. Mercy does not erase order. Listen carefully. Heaven is not angry at you as a person. Heaven is angry at the pattern, the repetition, the way you keep circling the same test and expecting a different result. Archangel Michael says, I was assigned to guard you, but you stepped outside the boundary I marked. That is why things have felt unstable. That is why peace hath been inconsistent. That is why delays multiplied suddenly. This message is being released now because if you continue in the same direction for even a little longer, the cost will increase. Some losses are preventable only before they happen. That is why this sounds intense. That is why it feels heavy. You are being stopped mid-step. Do not click away. Do not tell yourself you'll come back later. Later is not promised in this instruction. The anger you feel in this message is not rage. It is urgency. The kind that shows up when something precious is about to be mishandled. You are more protected than you realize, but protection requires alignment. Archangel Michael says there is still time to correct this mistake, but the correction must be immediate and sincere. No excuses. No half-turns. No spiritual language without action. Heaven is watching what you do after this, not how emotional you feel during it. Some of you already know exactly what this is about. A relationship you were told to leave. A truth you were told to speak. a habit you were told to cut, a step you were told to take but delayed. You thought silence meant permission. It did not. Silence was patience, and patience has an end. This message is not here to scare you away. It is here to pull you back. But if you choose to walk away now, understand this: heaven will respect your choice. And when heaven steps back, the lessons become louder. Stay with this message. What comes next explains what must be done before this window closes completely. The next words are not optional. They are instructions. Beloved one, slow your thoughts and quiet your surroundings, because this is not a message you absorb casually. Archangel Michael says heaven is addressing you with firmness today because softness no longer produces movement. The warning you heard was not grammatic language. It was a boundary being drawn. You were drifting toward a choice that would have required far more correction later, and heaven intervened now to prevent deeper loss. This is not about fear. This is about direction. The mistake heaven noticed was not an accident. The truth may feel uncomfortable, but it is necessary. You were aware. You sensed the inner resistance before you proceeded. You felt the loss of peace before you justified it. Yet you continued, telling yourself you would fix it later, or that God understood your reasons. Archangel Michael says heaven understands motives, but motives do not override order. Alignment is not negotiable simply because emotions are involved. You must hear this clearly. Heaven is not responding to how sincere you feel, but to how aligned you are. Many people confuse spiritual emotion with obedience. You can feel deeply and still be mispositioned. That is why some of you have been praying intensely but seeing little movement. It is not because heaven is distant. It is because heaven is waiting for correction before release. Archangel Michael explains that the anger you sense in this message is not directed at your identity. It is directed at the pattern. A pattern of postponing what you already know you must address. A pattern of choosing relief over obedience. A pattern of telling yourself just a little longer when heaven already said now. Patterns shape outcomes, and heaven corrects patterns before they become permanent. There were warnings before today. Not loud ones. Subtle ones. Delays that frustrated you. Interruptions that felt inconvenient. Opportunities that stalled without explanation. Those were not random. Those were cushions of mercy meant to slow you down without exposing you. But when mercy is ignored repeatedly, correction must become clearer. That is why this message carries weight. Some of you are finally understanding why things felt unstable recently. Why peace came and went. Why clarity faded even while you prayed. Why confidence felt shaken without an obvious cause. Archangel Michael says, when you repeatedly step outside your assigned boundary, covering weakens gradually. Heaven does not remove protection suddenly, but misalignment creates exposure over time. This message arrived before that exposure could turn costly. This moment is critical because heaven is giving you a chance to correct early. There are consequences attached to continued delay that heaven wants to spare you from. Not only for your sake, but for others connected to your obedience. Your alignment affects more lives than you see. Your delay ripples outward. That is why this direction feels heavier than previous ones. More is at stake now. Do not allow shame to enter your heart. Shame will make you hide, and hiding prolongs misalignment. Conviction, however, invites action. Archangel Michael says heaven is not asking you to punish yourself. It is asking you to respond honestly. The firmness you hear is the voice of protection, not rejection. There is one specific area being illuminated to you right now. Not many, but a decision you have postponed, a boundary you softened, a truth you avoided, You already know what it is. If you claim confusion, you are delaying. Clarity has already been provided. What heaven is waiting for now is courage. As this message is reaching you, let it reach others as well. Like this video so it remains visible to those who are standing at the same crossroads. Share it with someone who hath been feeling internal pressure but cannot name why. Comment to declare that you are choosing alignment over delay, because engagement keeps this message alive where it needs to be heard. Subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to these timely instructions. And if this place strengthens your walk consistently, join the membership and stand with a community that chooses obedience over comfort. Archangel Michael also says, do not mistake emotional reaction for realignment. Feeling stirred is not the same as changing direction. Heaven is watching what you do after this message ends. A conversation you initiate, a habit you stop, a step you finally take. Alignment is proven through movement, not feelings. Consistency will matter more than intensity now. Do not respond dramatically today and drift tomorrow. Heaven is watching patterns, not promises. Repeated obedience restores authority faster than temporary passion ever could. When alignment is sustained, peace stabilizes and resistance loosens. If you feel pressure in your chest or heaviness in your thoughts, let it work. Truth presses before it settles. Stay present. Stay open. Hold on, because what unfolds next will reveal how quickly restoration begins once obedience is restored, and you will want to hear every word of it. My dear child, receive this calmly now, because the atmosphere is shifting from correction to consequence, and from warning to instruction. Archangel Michael says the moment you choose alignment, heaven does not delay its response. But you must understand what alignment truly unlocks, and what happens when it is resisted for too long. This part is not meant to scare you. It is meant to sober you. There is a spiritual law at work, and laws operate whether we feel ready or not. Archangel Michael reveals that every assignment comes with boundaries, and every boundary carries protection. When you stepped outside what was assigned, heaven did not immediately remove its hand. Instead, it watched to see whether you would self-correct. Time was given. Grace was extended. But grace is not permission to remain misaligned. It is an opportunity to return safely. This is why February 6th holds weight. It marks the end of observation and the beginning of response. Some of you have been asking why the same issues keep resurfacing even after prayer. Why the same resistance keeps showing up even when you try harder. Archangel Michael says repetition is not attack. It is exposure. The same lesson returns until alignment is chosen. Heaven will not advance you past a test you refuse to complete. Advancement without alignment creates collapse later, and heaven prevents collapse by slowing promotion. This is where many misunderstand divine patience. Patience is not passive. While you wait, heaven prepares. While you delay, heaven adjusts. And when correction is ignored too long, heaven allows you to feel the weight of your choice, not to punish you, but to awaken discernment. That weight you felt recently was not abandonment. It was a pressure of being out of position. Archangel Michael also reveals that some doors you thought were closing were actually pausing. They were waiting for you to return to the correct posture. The moment posture changes, access changes. That is why obedience matters more than effort. One aligned step outweighs months of anxious striving. Hear this carefully. Obedience does not just restore peace, it restores authority. Authority is what shifts environments. Authority is what quiets confusion. Authority is what causes resistance to move out of the way. When you delayed correction, authority weakened. When you align, authority returns. This is why heaven is so direct with you now. You are meant to walk with authority, not hesitation. Some of you are realizing that the mistake you made was not moral failure but spiritual timing failure. You moved early. You moved late. You moved sideways when heaven said forward. Timing matters in the spirit. Even correct actions at the wrong time can create disorder. Archangel Michael says heaven is realigning your timing now so what was delayed does not become denied. Do not underestimate how closely heaven is watching your response after this message. Not your words, not your emotions, your movement. Alignment is not proven in thought, it is proven in follow-through. Heaven responds to obedience faster than it responds to tears. If your heart feels tender right now, that is a good sign. Tenderness means resistance is dissolving. Pride hardens, but humility opens. Archangel Michael says humility today will save you weeks of unnecessary struggle tomorrow. You're at an abyss of it on the pedestrian. There is still a window open. Not wide, but sufficient. What heaven asks of you now is honesty and decisiveness. No spiritual excuses. No delays dressed as wisdom. Do what you were already told to do. Say what you were already told to say. Release what you were already told to release. The moment you do, you will feel the atmosphere shift. Before this message moves forward, receive this activation with intention. Type I return to alignment in the comments if this message is confirming what your spirit already knew. Blessing code 904 has just been released. I hear the spirit saying this clearly. As you have received, now release. When you support this mission, you are not funding a channel. You are sowing light into lives that are standing at the edge of obedience just like you were. Every seed you release becomes oil in another lamp, clarity in another mind, and courage in another heart. I feel led to tell you plainly, this is your moment to respond, not later. The heavens recognize obedience that moves through generosity. If this word aligned you, then act in alignment. Use super thanks, join the membership, or give through PayPal. The PayPal link is waiting for you in the description. I declare that what you release today will return to you pressed down, strengthened, and multiplied. Move now. Obedience always unlocks overflow. My precious one, let your spirit settle as we go deeper, because what unfolds now is not about the mistake itself, but about what heaven is preparing to restore once correction is completed. Archangel Michael says many people focus only on what went wrong, but heaven is focused on what must now be rebuilt correctly. This is why you are still here listening. If restoration were not possible, this message would not continue. The fact that instruction is still being released means heaven has not withdrawn its plan for you. You must understand something vital at this stage. Correction is not the end of a season. It is the hinge between two seasons. One closes, another opens. The discomfort you felt was the sound of a door shutting behind you so that distraction could not follow you forward. Archangel Michael says heaven closes doors firmly when it intends to open greater ones safely. You were not being pushed back. You were being repositioned. There is a shift that happens internally when obedience is chosen. It is subtle at first but powerful. Your thoughts begin to quiet. Your reactions slow down. Discernment sharpens. This is not emotional relief. This is alignment settling into place. Archangel Michael explains that when alignment returns, clarity follows almost immediately, because confusion cannot survive where order is restored. Some of you are beginning to notice this already. The heaviness is lifting slightly. The panic is easing. Questions that felt overwhelming are becoming simpler. That is not imagination. That is evidence that heaven is responding to your willingness. Even before full correction is completed, heaven honors the direction of your heart when it turns sincerely. However, Archangel Michael also brings a sober reminder. Restoration does not mean returning to old ways. You cannot correct alignment and then rebuild with the same habits that caused the drift. What is restored will require new discipline, new boundaries, and new attentiveness. Heaven is not rewinding time. It is realigning trajectory. The future will not look like the past, even when blessings return. This is why wisdom is being emphasized now. Wisdom is not knowledge, it is application. You have learned something through this correction that you did not know before. You have felt the cost of delay. You have experienced the instability of misalignment. Archangel Michael says heaven expects that lesson to shape your next decisions. Repetition is not planned if learning is embraced. There is also healing happening beneath the surface that you may not recognize yet. Some of the choices you made were influenced by fear, pressure, with a need for control. Heaven is addressing those roots now. Archangel Michael says obedience is easier when fear loses its grip. That is why fear is being exposed and weakened in this season. You are being taught to move from trust, not urgency. Do not rush the process of rebuilding. Alignment brings acceleration later, but wisdom requires patience first. There are steps that must be taken in order. Foundations must be reinforced. Conversations must be honest. Boundaries must be respected. Archangel Michael emphasizes that what is rebuilt slowly will stand firmly, while what is rushed will require correction again. You may be tempted to prove yourself after correction, to overcompensate with activity. Resist that urge. Heaven is not asking you to perform. It is asking you to remain attentive. Stillness after correction is as important as movement before promotion. This is where many fail, by mistaking momentum for maturity. Archangel Michael says maturity listens before it moves. Another truth must be spoken now. Restoration does not mean everyone will understand your process. Some people will not know what you were corrected for, nor should they. This is between you and heaven. Do not seek validation from those who were not present during the instruction. Your opinions cannot confirm what heaven has already affirmed internally. As alignment continues, discernment will sharpen regarding who and what belongs in your next season. Some connections will feel heavier. Some distractions will lose their appeal. This is not loss. This is refinement. Archangel Michael says heaven prunes what competes with purpose, not what supports it. Let go without resentment. What leaves now was not meant to go forward. You are entering a stage where obedience becomes more intuitive, less forced. That is growth. The inner resistance you felt before will not dominate as it once did, because awareness has increased. You now recognize the early signs of drift. That awareness is protection. Heaven teaches before it entrusts more. Stay grounded in what you are learning. Reflect. Adjust. Move deliberately. This is not a race, it is a recalibration. Archangel Michael says those who respond well to correction are often trusted with greater authority afterward, because they have proven teachability. Teachability is a rare strength in the spirit. Remain present with this message. What unfolds next will reveal how heaven confirms restoration outwardly, not just internally, and how you will recognize the signs that alignment has fully settled into place. Beloved soul, remain attentive and do not allow familiarity to dull your focus, because what heaven is unfolding now is about discernment that must carry you forward. Archangel Michael says restoration without discernment is temporary, but restoration guarded by discernment becomes permanent. Many people are restored, but few are trained to remain aligned. This is why this stage matters so deeply. You are not only being brought back into position, you are being taught how to stay there. Understand this clearly. The mistake you corrected will not return in the same obvious form. That season has passed. What comes next will be subtler, quieter, and more convincing. Archangel Michael warns that after correction, tests no longer announce themselves loudly. They come disguised as opportunities, as reasonable compromises, as emotionally appealing options. Discernment is what allows you to recognize misalignment even when something looks harmless on the surface. Some of you are already sensing this shift. Things that once excited you now feel uneasy. Conversations that once felt safe now feel draining. Situations that once seemed promising now feel rushed or forced. This is not confusion. This is discernment awakening. Heaven is retraining your inner senses so you no longer rely only on emotion, but on peace rooted in alignment. Archangel Michael says discernment grows when you stop asking whether something is allowed and start asking whether it is assigned. Many mistakes are made in areas that are not clearly wrong but simply not right for you. Alignment is personal. What distracts one person may not distract another. Discernment teaches you to recognize what pulls you out of your lane, even if it appears good. Be especially cautious with urgency. Urgency often masquerades as importance. Heaven does not rush alignment. When something pressures you to decide quickly without giving you space to breathe, reflect, and pray, examine it carefully. Archangel Michael says heaven leads with clarity, not panic. Pressure clouds discernment, peace sharpens it. There will be moments when discernment asks you to remain silent instead of responding. Silence will feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to explaining yourself. But restraint is often a form of obedience. Not every perception requires a reaction. Archangel Michael says discernment is not reactive. It is observant. He allows you to see clearly without being pulled emotionally into every situation. As alignment stabilizes, your inner voice will become steadier. Not louder but clear. You will begin to recognize the difference between anxiety-driven thoughts and spirit-led direction. Anxiety pushes. Direction guides. Anxiety demands immediate action. Direction invites trust. Learning this distinction is critical for the season ahead. You may notice that discernment begins to reshape your desires. Some ambitions will soften. Some goals will be refined. This does not mean you are losing passion. It means your passion is being purified. Archangel Michael says heaven removes desire that competes with purpose and strengthens desire that aligns with calling. What remains will be stronger and more focused. Discernment will also introduce boundaries. You will say no more easily. You will disengage sooner. You will stop entertaining conversations and environments that once consumed your attention. This is not withdrawal. This is wisdom. Boundaries protect what heaven is building. Without boundaries, restoration leaks. Do not be surprised if discernment creates distance between you and certain people. Alignment often reveals differences that were previously ignored. This does not mean rejection is taking place. It means refinement is happening. Archangel Michael says heaven prunes what distracts from purpose, not what supports it. Let go without resentment. What leaves now is making room for what belongs. This season also calls for strength and discipline, not out of fear but out of clarity. Time spent in stillness sharpens discernment. Perfection reduces reaction. Archangel Michael says a disciplined inner life creates stability even when external circumstances shift. When your inner world is ordered, chaos loses its power over you. Pay attention to patterns. Discernment develops through observation over time. Notice what consistently brings peace and what consistently disrupts it. Notice what strengthens your focus and what scatters it. Heaven speaks more through patterns than moments. Moments can be emotional. Patterns reveal truth. You will not get everything right immediately, and heaven is not demanding perfection. But you will recover faster when misalignment appears. You will notice earlier. You will adjust sooner. That is progress. Discernment shortens recovery time, and the shortened recovery prevents deeper damage. Trust what is settling within you. Discernment is not dramatic. It is quiet confidence. It is knowing when to move and when to wait. It is recognizing what is for now. For later, we're not at all. Archangel Michael says this discernment is one of the greatest gifts of restoration, because it guards what heaven has entrusted to you. Stay present with this unfolding. What comes next will reveal how heaven confirms discernment through peace, stability, and external confirmation, and how you will recognize when restored authority is fully active in your life. My beloved one, remain grounded and attentive, because what heaven is addressing now is not optional for those who have been restored. Archangel Michael says restoration always carries responsibility, and responsibility always brings a higher level of awareness. You are no longer standing where you once stood. The correction you receive moved you into a different position, and with that position comes expectation. This is not pressure meant to overwhelm you. It is trust being extended again. There is a shift that happens after alignment that many people do not recognize at first. Before correction, mistakes were often softened by innocence. After correction, choices are weighed differently. You now notice things earlier. You sense misalignment faster. You feel peace weaken sooner than before. Archangel Michael says this is not sensitivity born of fear. It is discernment sharpened by experience. You have learned what drift feels like, and heaven will not allow you to unlearn that awareness. Some of you are feeling the seriousness of this stage, and that is appropriate. Seriousness does not mean heaviness. It means clarity. Heaven is showing you that what once felt casual can no longer be treated lightly. Small decisions now carry greater influence. What you tolerate shapes your atmosphere. What you ignore grows quietly. Responsibility begins in the small, unseen choices long before it is tested publicly. This stage is about stewardship. Stewardship of thought patterns, because what you dwell on eventually directs you. Stewardship of time, because distraction is one of the fastest ways alignment erodes. Stewardship of access, because not everyone deserves the same level of influence in your life. Archangel Michael says restoration restores access, but responsibility guards it. Without guarding, access is easily misused. You may notice that chaos feels more uncomfortable than it used to. Disorder drains you faster. Confusion frustrates you more deeply. This is because your spirit has been recalibrated to order. What once felt tolerable now feels disruptive. Do not resist this change. This discomfort is not weakness. It is refinement. Heaven is teaching you to protect peace as something valuable, not accidental. Discipline will play a key role now. Not harsh discipline, but intentional structure. Simple routines. Honest self-reflection. Clear boundaries. These are not restrictions meant to limit joy. They are supports meant to sustain it. Archangel Michael says freedom without structure becomes fragile, but freedom supported by discipline becomes stable. Be cautious of the temptation that often follows restoration, the temptation to test limits. Confidence returns, clarity improves, and suddenly you wonder how close you can walk to the edge without consequence. This is where many fall back into correction cycles. Archangel Michael warns that humility is what keeps authority clean. Confidence must always be partnered with reverence. There will also be moments when responsibility feels lonely. Awareness can create separation, not because you are better than others, but because your choices are now guided by different standards. Do not interpret this as isolation. Heaven often reduces noise so clarity can remain strong. Seek connection, but do not compromise alignment for belonging. What you are learning now is not meant to remain private. Others are watching your response, even if silently. How you handle correction, responsibility, and restoration becomes a testimony without words. That is why engaging with this message matters. Like this video so it continues to reach those who are standing at the edge of awareness. Share it with someone who is being gently corrected and needs confirmation. Comment to declare that you are choosing responsibility over carelessness. Subscribe to this channel so you stay connected to messages that strengthen alignment. And if this space consistently feeds your spirit, join the membership and walk with a community that values obedience, growth, and accountability. Archangel Michael also reminds you that responsibility does not mean carrying everything alone. Wisdom invites counsel. Accountability strengthens alignment. Trusted voices help reinforce boundaries when emotions try to blur them. Heaven often uses godly connections as mirrors to keep you aware of yourself. As responsibility increases, peace deepens. This may surprise you. Many believe responsibility creates pressure, but in the spirit, it creates stability. When expectations are clear, confusion loses power. When direction is defined, anxiety weakens. Archangel Michael says clarity is a form of rest that many never experience because they resist responsibility. Do not rush this season. Let new habits settle. Let boundaries become natural. Let awareness turn into instinct. This is not about perfection. It is about responsiveness. When misalignment appears, you will correct faster now. That alone prevents deeper consequence. Stay present with what is unfolding. Do not drift mentally or emotionally. Hold on, because what comes next reveals how heaven confirms responsibility through visible favor, and how restored authority begins to influence your environment in ways you did not expect. This is where things begin to change outwardly, and you will want to see it unfold. My beloved child, stay fully present and do not let your attention drift, because what heaven is revealing now is about momentum and how easily it can be lost if it is not guarded with wisdom. Archangel Michael says many people reach alignment, experience restoration, and feel relief, but then assume the journey will now carry itself forward. That assumption has quietly undone more destinies than open rebellion ever did. Momentum is a gift, but it is also a responsibility. What heaven has restarted in your life must now be protected intentionally, or it will slowly leak away. There is a delicate phase after responsibility settles where progress begins quietly. This is not the season of loud breakthroughs yet. Peace stabilizes. Clarity becomes consistent. Direction feels steadier than before. These subtle shifts are easy to overlook, and impatience often rises here. Archangel Michael says impatience at this stage is dangerous because it tempts you to rush what heaven is stabilizing. Acceleration before grounding creates imbalance. Heaven builds slowly so that what grows will last. You may feel an inner urge to make up for lost time. You may think about what could have been, what was delayed, or how far ahead you should be by now. Archangel Michael warns that this mindset pulls your focus backward instead of anchoring it forward. Heaven is not asking you to compensate for delay. It is asking you to remain aligned now. The future is not restored by speed. It is restored by consistency. Consistency proves that correction was real. This is also the stage where new distractions attempt to return, but they will not look like the old ones. They will appear reasonable, productive, even spiritual. Overcommitment will disguise itself as purpose. Emotional availability to everyone will disguise itself as compassion. Constant activity will disguise itself as progress. Archangel Michael says discernment must now guard momentum, because even good things can become harmful if they pull you out of rhythm. Pay close attention to your energy. Not just physical tiredness, but spiritual depletion. Notice what drains you without strengthening you. Notice what excites you briefly but leaves you scattered afterward. Momentum is sustained by focus, and focus cannot survive endless division. Heaven is teaching you to value depth over speed, presence over pressure, and obedience over appearance. There will be moments when silence feels unproductive and waiting feels like stagnation. Resist that interpretation. Silence is often where direction sharpens. Waiting is often where strength consolidates. Archangel Michael says heaven does some of its most important work in stillness, not in motion. Do not mistake quiet seasons for empty ones. What is being formed internally will soon support visible movement externally. As momentum builds, confidence will grow. Confidence is healthy, but it must remain anchored in humility. Do not forget what misalignment felt like. Not to live in fear, but to remain aware. Awareness keeps confidence clean. Archangel Michael says humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking clearly about your dependence on divine order. You may notice that your tolerance for unnecessary noise decreases. Drama feels heavier. Arguments feel pointless. Distractions feel costly. This is not withdrawal. This is focus sharpening. Heaven is narrowing your field of attention so momentum can remain strong. Let the narrowing happen without resistance. What does not belong in your next season will naturally lose its grip. This is also a season to guard your inner agreements. What you agree with internally shapes your direction externally. Do not agree with thoughts that question alignment without evidence. Do not entertain narratives that undermine progress or reopen old fears. Archangel Michael says inner agreement determines outer movement. Guard your mind with the same seriousness you guard your actions. Momentum also requires rest, and this is where many misunderstand strength. Rest is not retreat. Rest is recalibration. When rest is ignored, momentum collapses under its own weight. Archangel Michael emphasizes that heaven designed rest as part of movement, not an interruption to it. Honor rhythms of pause, reflection, and renewal. You may encounter resistance as momentum becomes noticeable. Not everyone benefits from your clarity. Some people were comfortable with your confusion. Some environments thrive on your inconsistency. When alignment strengthens, resistance often surfaces. Do not interpret resistance as a sign you are wrong. Discern its source. Archangel Michael says resistance often appears when order confronts disorder. Remain steady. Do not react emotionally. Do not over-explain. Momentum is not defended through argument. It is protected through consistency. Over time, alignment speaks louder than explanation. Fruit silences doubt more effectively than words ever could. Stay teachable in this stage. Momentum can tempt you to believe you no longer need instruction. That belief ends growth quickly. Archangel Michael says teachability keeps momentum flexible, not rigid. Flexibility allows heaven to redirect without resistance when needed. Stay fully present with this unfolding. Momentum is building, even if it feels quiet. Do not despise gradual progress. What heaven is forming now is stable, not flashy. And what comes next will reveal how this momentum begins to produce visible change, not only within you, but around you. Remain attentive, because the next unveiling will confirm that alignment was not temporary but transformative. My beloved child, Remain deeply attentive now, because what heaven is releasing at this stage concerns confirmation and separation. Archangel Michael says this is the point where alignment begins to reveal itself outwardly, not just inwardly. Until now, much of the work has been internal: correction, awareness, discernment, responsibility, momentum. But now, heaven begins to confirm what has been realigned, and confirmation always brings separation. This is where many become uncomfortable, because confirmation exposes what no longer belongs. You must understand this clearly. When heaven confirms alignment, it does not only bless, it distinguishes. What is aligned rises naturally. What is misaligned begins to feel out of place. This is not because heaven is harsh, but because truth creates contrast. Archangel Michael says light does not argue with darkness. It reveals it. As your alignment strengthens, contrast increases. Some of you are already noticing this. Situations that once felt neutral now feel heavy. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel strained. Certain people seem distant without explanation. This is not punishment. This is separation through clarity. Heaven is not tearing anything away violently. It is allowing misalignment to detach on its own. What no longer fits will slowly lose its hold. This stage often brings mixed emotions. Relief and grief can coexist. Gratitude and discomfort may overlap. Do not interpret this as confusion. It is transition. Archangel Michael says confirmation often feels quieter than people expect. It is not always celebration. Sometimes it is simplification. Your life becomes less crowded, more focused, more intentional. Heaven is also confirming alignment through peace. Not emotional excitement, but steady calm. A calm that remains even when circumstances are unresolved. This peace is not avoidance. It is assurance. Archangel Michael explains that when alignment is real, peace no longer depends on outcomes. It rests in position. That is how you know this change is lasting. Be cautious not to cling to what is being gently released. Nostalgia can blur discernment. Familiarity can feel like safety even when it no longer serves you. Archangel Michael says holding on to what heaven is removing creates unnecessary friction. Let separation happen without resistance. What leaves now cannot follow you forward without causing future correction. You may also notice that new clarity brings new responsibility in relationships. You will speak more honestly. You will tolerate less confusion. You will no longer manage others' expectations at the expense of your alignment. This may surprise people. Some will misunderstand it. That is acceptable. Heaven is not asking you to be misunderstood on purpose, but it is asking you to remain aligned even when understanding is delayed. Confirmation also brings validation, but not always from where you expect it. Some validation will come internally, as quiet assurance. Some will come externally, through unexpected support or favor. Some validation will never come at all, and you must be at peace with that. Archangel Michael says heaven's confirmation outweighs human approval every time. At this stage, comparison becomes especially dangerous. Do not measure your confirmation against someone else's expression. Alignment produces unique fruit in different lives. What looks small now may be foundational for something much larger later. Heaven is not interested in performance. It is interested in placement. Stay grounded. Do not become proud of separation. Separation is not superiority. It is stewardship. You are not separated because you are better, but because you are assigned differently. Archangel Michael emphasizes that humility keeps confirmation from turning into isolation. This is also where gratitude becomes protection. Gratitude anchors you in awareness of what has been restored rather than what was lost. Thankfulness sharpens perspective. Archangel Michael says those who remain grateful after confirmation remain teachable, and teachability preserves favor. If your spirit is resonating strongly right now, acknowledge this moment intentionally. Type "I stand in alignment" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1184 has just been activated. I feel led to speak this plainly to you. This word reached you because someone sowed before you. When you support this mission, you are not giving to a platform. You are releasing light into homes, hearts, and moments where heaven is calling people back into alignment. Every seed you sow becomes a voice that reaches someone standing at the same crossroads you stood at. I hear the Spirit saying, "Do not delay obedience when I prompt generosity." Use super thanks, step into membership, or release your seed through PayPal. The link is waiting in the description. As you give, I declare that heaven will confirm your alignment with provision, peace, and protection. Move now. Let your obedience speak louder than intention. My beloved one, stay fully present, because what heaven is unfolding now is about endurance and how alignment is sustained when emotions settle and attention fades. Archangel Michael says many people obey during intense moments, but true alignment is revealed after intensity passes. When the urgency quiets and the atmosphere becomes ordinary again, that is when endurance is tested. The stage is not dramatic, but it is decisive. What you choose here determines whether alignment becomes permanent or slowly erodes. You are now entering a phase where consistency matters more than revelation. Earlier, heaven spoke loudly to interrupt direction. Now, heaven watches quietly to observe discipline. Archangel Michael explains that not every season is filled with strong emotion or sharp instruction. Some seasons are designed to show whether you will continue doing what is right when nothing is pushing you to do so. Endurance is obedience without adrenaline. This is where many people drift without realizing it. Not through rebellion, but through neglect. Prayer becomes occasional instead of intentional. Reflection becomes rare. Boundaries soften slightly. Nothing feels wrong, yet alignment slowly thins. Archangel Michael warns that drift is almost always gradual. No one plans to fall out of alignment. They simply stop guarding what was restored. Be mindful of familiarity. Familiarity can dull reverence. When peace becomes normal again, you may forget what it cost to regain it. Do not allow comfort to make you careless. Comfort is meant to be enjoyed, not abused. Archangel Michael says peace must be protected even after it becomes familiar, or it will quietly withdraw. You may notice that fewer confirmations appear now. Less reassurance. Fewer signs. This is intentional. Heaven is not absent. It is trusting you. Endurance is built when guidance is internalized rather than constantly reinforced. Archangel Michael says heaven reduces external instruction when internal alignment strengthens. Silence does not mean disapproval. Often, it means confidence. This is also the stage where distractions feel less threatening and therefore more dangerous. You may think, "This won't affect me," or "I can handle this now." Be cautious with that thinking. Strength does not eliminate vulnerability. It requires wisdom to manage it. Archangel Michael says strength without vigilance invites unnecessary testing. Endurance also requires emotional regulation. Do not let temporary feelings dictate long-term direction. There will be days when alignment feels easy and days when it feels heavy. Neither should determine your obedience. Obedience rooted in feeling is unstable. Obedience rooted in conviction endures. Archangel Michael emphasizes that feelings change, but order remains. Another truth must be spoken now. Endurance often looks boring to those watching from the outside. There is no applause for consistency, no recognition for quiet faithfulness. By heaven records endurance carefully. What you maintain in private determines what heaven entrusts publicly. Archangel Michael says endurance is preparation for greater visibility. Be attentive to how you speak about your process. Complaining weakens endurance. Gratitude strengthens it. When you speak with appreciation for what has been restored, your focus remains anchored. When you speak with frustration, attention shifts back to lack. Archangel Michael says words either reinforce alignment or erode it. Choose carefully. This stage also requires you to revisit commitments you made during correction. Not to repeat them emotionally, but to honor them practically. Have you adjusted what needed adjusting? Have you sustained the boundaries you set? Have you continued the disciplines you started? Endurance is revealed in follow-through. Do not interpret the absence of pressure as permission to relax standards. Peace is not permission to drift. It is confirmation that alignment is working. Archangel Michael says when peace is present, guard it more carefully, not less. Peace is one of the first things lost when endurance weakens. There may be moments when you feel unseen, when obedience feels unnoticed, when effort feels unacknowledged. This is where trust deepens. Heaven sees what others do not. Archangel Michael reminds you that reward is not always immediate, but it is always precise. Nothing aligned is wasted. As endurance strengthens, you will notice resilience forming. You recover faster from deception. You recalibrate quicker after distraction. You do not spiral as easily. This is growth. Alignment is becoming instinct rather than effort. Archangel Michael says this is the mark of maturity in the spirit. Remain steady. Do not look for constant stimulation. Do not chase new intensity. Let depth form. Let roots grow. What is being built now will support what comes next. And what comes next will require the endurance you are developing now. Stay with this unfolding. What follows will reveal how endurance is rewarded, how faithfulness is recognized by heaven, and how alignment sustained over time begins to unlock influence you did not pursue, but were prepared for. My beloved one, stay deeply attentive, because what heaven is unveiling now concerns influence and visibility, and this is where alignment is tested in a different way. Archangel Michael says many can endure correction, responsibility, and consistency in private, but fewer can remain aligned when influence begins to expand. Influence changes how people respond to you. Visibility changes how temptation approaches you. This stage is not about survival anymore. It is about stewardship at a higher level. As endurance settles, heaven begins to trust you with reach. This does not always mean public attention at first. Sometimes it means increased impact in quiet places. Your words carry more weight. Your presence affects atmospheres. People respond differently to you without knowing why. Archangel Michael says this is not personality. It is authority returning. Authority attracts attention, both positive and challenging. Be careful here. Influence can awaken subtle pride if you are not watchful. Not loud arrogance, but quiet self-reliance. The thought that says, I've learned this now, or I will make that mistake again. Archangel Michael warns that confidence must remain submitted. Alignment is not maintained by experience alone, but by continued humility. What protected you before must continue to protect you now. You may notice that expectations increase. People may look to you for answers, support, or direction. This can feel affirming, but it can also become draining if you are not discerning. You are not called to carry everyone. Influence does not mean availability to all. Archangel Michael says stewardship of influence requires boundaries just as much as stewardship of peace. This is also where discernment must sharpen again. Not every opportunity to speak is an assignment. Not every request deserves immediate response. Not every door that opens is meant to be entered. Influence creates options, but alignment chooses selectively. Heaven values accuracy more than activity. Visibility also attracts resistance in new forms. Not always opposition, but distraction. Busyness that feels important. Invitations that feel flattering. Engagements that slowly crowd out stillness. Archangel Michael says distraction is one of the most effective tools used against aligned people at this stage. It rarely looks harmful. It looks useful. But usefulness without assignment leads to dilution. Guard your private disciplines carefully now. When influence grows, private time becomes more essential, not less. Stillness keeps authority clean. Reflection keeps motivation pure. Archangel Michael emphasizes that public strength is sustained by private alignment. Never trade one for the other. You may feel a subtle pressure to maintain an image. Resist it. Alignment is not performance. Heaven did not restore you so you could manage appearances. It restored you so you could remain real. Authenticity protects alignment more than reputation ever could. Archangel Michael says when image becomes more important than obedience, correction returns. This is also a stage where your words matter more. Casual speech carries weight now. Complaints echo louder. Encouragement travels further. Be intentional. Archangel Michael says influence amplifies everything it touches, including tone, intention, and motive. Speak with awareness. As influence increases, so does the need for community that keeps you grounded. Isolation at this stage is dangerous. Do not surround yourself only with those who admire you. Stay connected to those who can speak honestly to you. Accountability preserves authority. Heaven often uses trusted voices to keep influence aligned. If this message is strengthening you right now, engage with it intentionally. Like this video so it continues reaching those preparing for greater responsibility. Share it with someone who is stepping into visibility and needs grounding. Comment if this is confirming what you have been sensing internally. Subscribe to this channel so you stay connected to these timely messages. And if this place has been feeding your spirit consistently, join the membership and stand with a community that values alignment over attention. Hold on right here, because what is coming next brings a clarity many people miss at this stage, and it will help you avoid a mistake that often follows increased influence. You will want to stay with this, because this is where protection becomes very practical. Archangel Michael also reminds you that influence is not permanent by default. It is sustained through alignment. Heaven can expand reach quickly and reduce it just as quickly if order is compromised. This is not threat. It is stewardship. Influence is a trust, not a possession. There will be moments when you are tempted to relax standards because things are working. Resist the temptation. Effectiveness does not equal alignment. Results do not replace obedience. Archangel Michael says success without alignment becomes the most convincing distraction of all. Remain grounded. Keep returning to stillness. Keep honoring boundaries. Keep listening before acting. Influence handled well becomes a platform for purpose. Influence handled carelessly becomes a trap. Stay present. What unfolds next reveals how heaven protects those who remain aligned in visibility, how favor is sustained without compromise, and how obedience at this stage determines what legacy will look like beyond this season. This next unfolding is crucial, and you will want to hear it carefully. My beloved one, remain fully attentive, because what heaven is revealing now concerns protection at a deeper level. the kind that operates quietly but decisively. Archangel Michael says many understand correction, responsibility, endurance, and influence, yet overlook the necessity of sustained protection once visibility and authority are established. Protection at this stage is no longer reactive, it is proactive. Heaven is not responding to danger after it appears. Heaven is positioning you so danger does not gain access at all. This is a subtle but powerful shift. Earlier, protection often felt like rescue. You felt pulled back, stopped, or corrected after something went wrong. And now, protection feels like redirection before harm even presents itself. Archangel Michael says this is a sign of trust. When heaven protects you in advance, it means your alignment has proven consistent enough to warrant preemptive covering. You may notice this as sudden disinterest in certain paths you once desired. Opportunities may fade without explanation. Conversations may end abruptly. Plans may dissolve before forming. Do not resist this. This is not loss. It is intersection. Heaven is removing access points before they can become vulnerabilities. Archangel Michael emphasizes that what never reaches you cannot damage you. At this level, protection often works through restraint. You will feel checked before speaking. You will pause before committing. You will sense when something is off without having logical evidence. This is not hesitation. This is spiritual intelligence developing. Archangel Michael says restraint is one of the highest forms of wisdom, especially when influence is present. Be careful not to override restraint with logic alone. Logic explains what restraint is trying to prevent. Just because you can justify something does not mean you should proceed. Alignment is not always logical to the mind, but it is always accurate in the spirit. Heaven prioritizes safety of assignment over satisfaction of curiosity. Another form of protection now operating is exposure reduction. You may find that certain environments feel less accessible. Invitations may slow. Attention may fluctuate. Do not panic. Archangel Michael says heaven sometimes reduces exposure to preserve clarity. Visibility is adjusted, not removed. When clarity is protected, influence lasts longer. You are also being protected from internal erosion. Subtle compromises in thought, attitude, or motive are being addressed quickly. You may catch yourself sooner when pride tries to rise or when fatigue tries to justify carelessness. This is not self-criticism. This is awareness. Archangel Michael says awareness is the alarm system of the spirit. This stage also requires you to respect boundaries that heaven establishes, even when they feel inconvenient. Boundaries are not barriers. They are buffers. They create space between you and what could drain, distract, or distort your assignment. Do not attempt to cross boundaries just to prove strength. Strength is shown in obedience, not experimentation. You may feel an increased desire for simplicity, fewer explanations, fewer engagements, fewer emotional investments. This is not withdrawal, it is refinement. Archangel Michael says complexity increases vulnerability, while simplicity strengthens protection. Heaven often simplifies before it sustains something long-term. Another aspect of protection now is timing. You may feel urged to wait even when momentum exists. This can feel frustrating if you confuse readiness with permission. Readiness prepares you. Permission releases you. Archangel Michael says heaven often delays permission to protect timing, not to deny progress. What arrives at the right time arrives with less resistance. Pay attention to how peace behaves now. Peace will no longer accompany everything that looks good. It will become selective. This selectivity is protection. When peace withdraws, do not chase it. Pause. Investigate alignment. Peace does not disappear without reason at this stage. There will also be moments when protection feels like distance from certain people who once had access to you. This is not punishment. It is prioritization. Archangel Michael says not everyone who supported you during correction is meant to walk with you during influence. See them change access. This does not diminish past value. It honors present assignment. Remain vigilant but not anxious. Protection does not require fear. Fear clouds discernment. Awareness sharpens it. Archangel Michael reminds you that you are not being protected because you are weak, but because what you carry is valuable. Valuable things are guarded intentionally. You are also learning to partner with protection through obedience. When you respond quickly to inner checks, protection strengthens. When you hesitate, friction increases. Heaven is training you to move with protection, not against it. Cooperation makes covering effortless. This stage may feel quieter externally, but internally it is powerful. Stability is forming. Consistency is deepening. Protection is settling into rhythm rather than reaction. Archangel Michael says this is what prepares you for longevity. Short-lived influence does not require deep protection. Lasting impact does. Do not rush this phase. Do not question it unnecessarily. Trust what is being withheld as much as what is being released. Heaven knows exactly what you need and what you must be spared from. Stay present. What unfolds next is the final revelation of this sequence, and it brings completion, sealing, and activation. The next message will not only explain what heaven has done, but how it will now move through you. This final unfolding is critical. Remain attentive. My beloved child, listen with your whole spirit now, because what heaven is releasing in this final moment is not correction, not warning, and not preparation. It is sealing. Archangel Michael says everything you have walked through was not random, delayed, or excessive. It was precise. It was measured. And now, what has been corrected, aligned, refined, protected, and sustained is being sealed by heaven itself. This seal is not emotional. It is authoritative. Sealing means this: what was unstable is now stabilized. What was vulnerable is now guarded. What was delayed is now positioned. Archangel Michael says a sealed season does not mean temptation disappears, but it does mean access is restricted. What once had easy entry into your thoughts, emotions, and decisions will now require permission it no longer has. This is not because you became stronger alone, but because heaven has finalized a boundary around you. There is a reason this message ends here and not earlier. Sealing only happens after endurance. Many ask for sealing too soon. They want permanence without consistency. Heaven waits until obedience proves durable. You stayed. You listened. You corrected. You endured. That is why sealing is happening now. You may notice that after this moment, certain cycles simply stop repeating. Not dramatically, but decisively. The same confusion will not keep returning. The same emotional traps will not keep reopening. The same delays will not keep recycling. Archangel Michael says this is not because you fought harder, but because heaven closed doors you no longer need to guard manually. Sealing also means authority is now active without constant effort. You will no longer need to overthink alignment. You will sense direction faster. Correction will come earlier and lighter. Peace will return quicker after disruption. This is not perfection. It is maturity. Heaven trusts mature vessels with quieter instructions. Understand this clearly. Sealing does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes ordered. Resistance will still exist. but it will no longer confuse you. Challenges may still arise, but they will no longer shake your identity. Archangel Michael says sealed alignment produces stability, not escape. This is also where your life begins to speak louder than your words. People will feel clarity around you. Environments will respond differently. Opportunities will align more naturally. This is not something you announce. It is something heaven enforces. When heaven seals, it does not need explanation. Do not rush to test this seal. Rest into it. Walk normally. Stay humble. Stay attentive. Seals are maintained through relationship, not performance. Archangel Michael reminds you that sealing is a privilege, not a finish line. It marks readiness for influence that does not corrupt. There may still be moments when you remember who you were before correction. Let that memory keep you grateful, not fearful. Gratitude honors sealing. Pride challenges it. Stay grounded in thankfulness for what was restored and what was prevented. Now receive this final activation intentionally. Type IT is sealed in the comments if you receive this completion in your spirit. Blessing code 6429 has now been released and activated. I need to speak this as clearly as it was given to me. What just sealed in you must now flow through you. When you support this mission, you are not helping a channel. You are becoming a vessel through which sealed truth reaches others who are still standing at the edge of correction. Every seed you release becomes light where confusion still lives, oil where lamps are still flickering, and clarity where heaven is calling people back. I hear the Spirit saying, do not hold back when I invite you to partner with me. You super thanks. Step into membership, or release your seed through PayPal. The link is waiting in the description. I declare that your obedience and giving will be met with protection, increase, and sustained peace. Move now. Seal this moment with action.